Good evening and welcome to FTB Sports. This is the preview show for the game Manchester City versus Spurs, kicking off at 5:30 on Saturday. And I'm joined by two special guests and an even more special guest in the bottom of your screen. We've got Mike and we've got Blue Moon Ian. He's called himself Blue Moon Ian today. Added Blue Moon. I don't know why he's had to add the Blue Moon bit. I was just going to call you Ian. But you've gone and done it by adding the blue moon bit. I've worn a blue jumper today just to kind of get into that blue spirit. And it could be a very, very...
Oh, here we go.
Oh, here we go. This is what I was talking about. When we have these shows, we've got these rival fans on. Some of them do actually really take it to the limit. Welcome anyway, Ian. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much. I'm good.
Mike, I will ask you how you are, but I probably know how. I was gonna ask Mike how he is as well, but we've been doing enough talking today to get over it.
Yeah, I'm slowly getting over it. Especially, from the other night. So
it's therapy. What we're doing here is therapy for me. It kind of gets it out rather than being in my head. And so. The game Saturday, it's going to be very interesting given the results of both teams in the FA Cup. One very much on the ascendancy, one not so. Another team who've won, 15 games on the trot. Another team not won 15 games on the trot. So, I'm scratching my head here. I'm going to come to you first, Ian. How do you see the match playing out on Saturday?
It's the old anecdote. It just said, football is a funny old game, isn't it? The last time these two teams played, you really thought Spurs were going to have that most fantastic season. They played a very clever game. City got rope-a-doped, and 15 or so games later, it's really different. How do I think it will work out? It's strange. My brother and I, similar age, we watched City through thick and thin, through all those terrible years. So you always expect to wake up tomorrow, and actually, it's all been a dream. You never really get used to it. So even when you're playing Swansea away, you're still desperately worried. You're worried every game. I don't know what it is. It's all the decades of what it's done to me over the years. And I thought about Swansea 2 seasons ago when City played in the FA Cup. Selena, the old City player, scored, and City only just got over the finishing line at Swansea. They gave us a tough time. And technically, Swansea were in a higher league position this time and really on a roll. And I thought, surely the legs are going to go. Gundogan and Bernardo Silva, they can't keep that going, but they did. And I remember I looked at the fixtures on the Tuesday morning, and I thought, thank God we're on first. Swansea back to Manchester, Spurs back to London. Thank God we're on first. Let's hope it doesn't go to extra time. So with the early goals, and City were beautifully dominant against Swansea, much more than I expected. To be fair, Swansea rested players and didn't look as though they were up for it as a couple of years ago. But I imagine the City players were singing on the coach and they were back tucked up in their beds till about 11 o'clock. By about 11:30, and I thought, oh yeah, great, job done. Whereas Spurs obviously had a bit of a 97-minute disaster, and those players cannot have got any sleep. They will have been travelling home right through the early hours of the morning. They'll have got in their own beds after getting back to the stadium. I don't know, 3, 4, 5 o'clock. You ain't going to sleep after that. So I think technically City have the edge. I went to the new Spurs ground. For the first time, was it about a year ago? And City lost 2-0. It was almost a repeat of the game earlier this season. City dominated for ages. Aguero missed a penalty that day. It's the first time I've been to the stadium. I bought a ticket off a tout outside. I haven't got a ticket. I do want to compliment you, Mike. It's a most magnificent stadium, but not just, there's as beautiful stadiums. Manchester City's ground is as beautiful. There's no doubt at all about it. But it's built as a football stadium. The noise that came out of that Spurs main end when they scored, it was like an avalanche of sound. It was like Phil Spector does football, And Guerra missed a penalty just before half time, and then again rope-a-dope time. City got done by 2, and then exactly the same this season, really, but more strategically done by Mourinho. However, that was then, and this is now. And that's all I'm saying. I think City has the upper hand.
So basically what you're saying is City are going to smash us. If I break down what you just said, that's what you're saying to me now. You're going to basically say to me, last time it was a bit of a luck from Spurs. This time, basically, we're on the ropes and you're going to absolutely smash us. I don't know. I'm just going to put this comment up before you say anything more. Pipe 71. Football's a funny old game, but it's not that funny. It will be cricket score Saturday. Woo, I'm going to breathe on that one. Mike, before we come back to Ian again, could you tell me how you see the match playing out?
I don't think we're going to be as open. I honestly don't think we'll be playing as attacking and open as we was against Everton. I think, and rightly so, we should go back to that counter-attacking sort of style of play that got us success against Man City as from early in the season. So this attacking display that we saw yesterday night, is it? Yeah, that won't happen against City. I think it's going to be a much tighter affair in terms of how we play. We're going to be very much trying to shut up shop. I think that'd be the first and foremost, and hit City on the counter, which we are more than capable of doing. And against City, why play to their strengths? If we play an open game, they will just open us up. So if we play to our strengths and make it tight, make it compact, City's back line do concede goals. Albeit they score more than they do. They score far more than they do concede. But I don't know if we can keep it tight, get rid of those errors that we did, that we had against Everton, then we might find that we could get some joy.
Listen, from my perspective, we can't play the same way we did yesterday. We can't make the same mistakes we did yesterday in terms of personnel. The problem I've got now with Saturday's game is City have gone, 16 games, 15 games winning. Yeah. So they found a way to win in all kinds of styles, whether that's be somebody playing counter-attack, defensive, low blocks, high blocks, whatever it is, they found a way to win for all those games. Jose and Pep know each other very well. They've played a number of times, and Jose has got a way of playing against Pep teams. I think he'll obviously adopt the same approach, but I think City now have more ways of breaking down teams and getting through them. We have to be on our A game. Can we be on our A game having played 120 minutes yesterday with the players that we had to play? We've got a number of injuries. It's going to be very difficult. And that's the next question I'm going to come on to in a minute. But it's going to be a tough one. I'll just go through a couple more comments here. This is from Zacky's Forbes. Hi, guys. Great show again. I think you have a chance if you have Kane fit, soak them up and hurt them on the break. Well, that's very true, Zach. But the problem is the players are demoralized, I would say, for one thing. Tired, I'd say, for another thing. And City are just better than us at the moment. So it's going to be a difficult task. Last one here. By the way, comments are on point. You're built to do the job under Jose. Well, I hope so. Next point, and I'll come to you first, Mike. Given the fact that we have obviously had that 120 minutes yesterday and the injuries that we've got that we know, Gio, I think, is definitely out. Reguilon's definitely out. Who do you think starts for Spurs?
I would keep the same lineup that we went with initially against Everton, but obviously Kane obviously would start. Aurier, if he's fit, he obviously naturally would come back in, and Sanchez, goodbye. You're not coming back in my first. If I was manager, you ain't coming back into my team. And I'd bring Rodon in. I'd throw him in at the deep end because at the end of the day, he can't do any worse than Sanchez or Dyer. So what have we got to lose if we're going to play?
We've got a lot of goals to lose, Mike. So let's get that into perspective.
But if Sanchez is playing, we're going to concede a bucket load anyway. If Dyer plays, we're going to concede a bucket load. So I think if Aurier and Rodon came in, I think we might be okay. We've obviously Toby and Davis has been the last few games. I think it was since the Brighton defeat. I think Davis has he's improved. His performance has improved, and he is generally quite a solid centre. Sorry, not centre back. He's quite a solid left back. So I don't really have too many issues with him out on the left. It's more that centre back. But
okay,
yeah. And
Ian,
I wouldn't be surprised. Oh yeah, go on. No, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, so Ian, I guess from your perspective, it doesn't really matter which 11 that you guys put out. You're probably very confident that you'll probably take the points. But from your perspective, who would you like to see start for City?
I would have been confident if the injuries hadn't come to possibly, and I don't know how injured they are, key players. So the first, let me start on the positive side of the coin. Positive side of the coin was it was good to see Walker back, and it was good to see Gabriel Jesus really putting it in. That's important because having Walker back gives us the opportunity to move João Cancelo to left back, where City are vulnerable as bloody hell. So that's a positive. If they play Cancelo at left back and Walker at right back, that's a real positive. With Gabriel Jesus all over the park, high energy up front, that's positive. But, after the game last night, Rodri took a really heavy challenge and he's doubtful. Fernandinho has some kind of calf niggle, and Diaz has some kind of stomach problem, etc., and missed the game. Now, hey, if all three of them are fit, then happy days. I feel supremely confident. Yeah, if they're not, and City don't have a defensive midfielder against Kane and Son, that's really vulnerable. Because what they would have to do is probably play Gundogan in front of the back four with Mahrez and Sterling and possibly Torres in front of him. But Gundogan's a brilliant player, but he's not very quick. Yeah, he's not as mobile as Rodri. We need Rodri against Kane and Son.
Who do you think your wide players are going to be? Because you've got a choice of wide players and a lot of depth in that area. Likes of Foden, Sterling. I've forgotten the guys from Leicester. Who's Leicester? His name. Mahrez. Yeah. So there's a number of players. Jesus can play out wide, but I'd probably play him as central striker if he starts. So there's a number of players that could come into your team. Bernardo Silva, Gundogan's, as you said, playing really well. Is it a case of you think City will rotate certain players for certain positions, or do you think that Pep will just say to himself, right, they're there for the taking, I'm going to put out my A team? Because I don't know what your A team would be. I don't really know.
If I was Pep, just for a moment in time, I wouldn't play Mahrez tomorrow. I don't believe it's a game for him. Mahrez does really well against the lower teams where he can cut in from right to left. He scores the same goals every time. He moves in from the right. He runs quickly across the defence and he leathers it in with his left foot. Against a good team, which Spurs are, he'll be less effective. You need the running machine of Bernardo and Gundogan. With, I like seeing Foden more central, more mobile role in that kind of wandering number 10 role behind Gabriel Jesus. But it totally and utterly depends on the fitness of Rodri, Fernandinho, and to an extent Diaz at the back. I think the back four is fine because you just play Stones and Laporte and hopefully João Cancelo on the left and Walker on the right. That's sorted. But in front of that back four, and of all the teams in all the league, where you need that right defensive midfielder against Son and Kane, bloody hell you do. I don't know who you'd put in that role. I'm really not quite sure. If you wanted to take a flyer, if Diaz is fit, you play Diaz and Laporte. Maybe if Rodri and Fernandinho are not fit, you might, and it's been done before, play Stones in that holding midfield role because he's quick, or Walker.
I can't see you playing either of them.
Yeah, but they're going to be grubbing around for that position. And Gundogan he's a fantastic player, but he's not the right player to track back against Son and Kane.
But Stones isn't exactly particularly quick himself, is he? He's not. I wouldn't say he's. Walker's the quickest out of those names that you've mentioned. I can't imagine any of them. Those names you mentioned there, I couldn't imagine any of them playing holding midfield. Not against us, but that's just my own opinion.
No, you're right. I'm grubbing around because I'm not sure who will play in that position if those two aren't fit.
Unless he just changes the formation completely. Which when you think about it, we're there for the taking, so he might take that risk.
I don't think they will.
He might play three at the back and play wing.
No, I can't see him playing three at the back. You know why? I don't. They haven't really done a lot of playing three at the back in this run of X amount of games that they've won. They've really stuck to a formula. So I don't see him changing it just for this. I know that Pep does see Jose is probably that architectural, whatever word you want to say, who kind of comes in and knows how to disrupt the City style of playing. But I just think City on such a roll, and you've got the likes of Foden, who's really, really playing really well. You've got Sterling, who can jink past players, score goals for fun. His goal tally is really improving in his City career. Gundogan, again, he's now getting in the box to score. What I think Spurs have to do for this game is be very physical. That's the one area where I can see a little bit of a chink in, say, the City armory. Not because I don't think the players don't have any fight. I just think because they're so mobile and so nimble, they're not that. They haven't got that player in that centre of the park who's like, I don't know, a real, just really driving in them tackles and really doing that sort of thing. You've got lots of players who can play really good football and keep the ball really well, but you talk about this going to a Burnley on a Wednesday or Stoke on a Tuesday night, really throwing tackles in. That really seems to disrupt Pep's kind of philosophy around football. So I can see that maybe Jose will choose a physical team in that sense, people who are going to, win headers, win second balls and all the rest of that sort of good stuff. But we're not going to have a lot of the ball. So it's going to be a low block from us. Coupled with the fact that we've had this 120 minutes, our players aren't really going to have the energy. So it's going to have to be a very much of I believe, a counter-attacking approach to this game for Spurs. And the personnel, I don't think we've got a lot of choice. Does he bring in someone like Dele Alli to start? After last night's performance, I don't see that. So we're kind of limited. I think we're limited on who we start. I do see Ben Davies starting again. I hope Aurier gets a start. I would love to see Rodon and Alderweireld play. I don't want to see Dyer. I don't want to see Sanchez. Midfield, it's going to be Hojbjerg. It's going to be Ndombele. And I want to see Lamela play again because he's really played the last two games really well. And up front, Son one side, Kane down the middle. And if you're talking about energy levels and stuff, people who are going to be running and doing all the jobs that needs to be done, it's going to be more because Ndombele I'm seeing is playing as a two with Hojbjerg. It's going to have to be more.
I've just got to put in those absolute bone-shaking tackles to really do it. Hojbjerg, you man.
Oh, he's definitely the man.
I'm a bit critical of him. He's hardly the mark signing I would have made in the close season. Described him as he's the signing, isn't he?
He's the signing that we needed, though, and I think every team needs a Hojbjerg. He may not be the most talented, but what he brings to your team, you've either got it or you haven't it in terms of having that engine, that stamina. Someone that's willing to do the dirty work, because a lot of players nowadays, I don't think are willing to do that sort of job. And he's more than happy to just run for 90 minutes, tackle for 90 minutes, disrupt the play, press the play, and give it simple to let the more creative players come into the game and do what they do best, I suppose.
And what I like with Glenn Hoddle and Chris Waddle, and we're maybe having a Teams or a Zoom call on the day that Hojbjerg was signed, and Hoddle says to Waddle, or Waddle says to Hoddle, "What do you think of that Hojbjerg guy? Do you think he'll do well for Spurs? What do you think they'd have said?"
Listen, I think the game's changed from the Hoddle. Hoddle was such a maverick player that he couldn't even get into the England setup regularly because of the fact that he was probably ahead of his time. Now you'd look at a Hoddle and think you'd build a team around him. I would build 100%. The England team around a Hoddle now. Yeah. Looking back, they probably had a lot more of these enforcer type players. Yeah. So they're probably used to seeing a Hojbjerg. Hojbjerg, for me, goes back to the old days of the good old, not so much the Graham Souness, but more say the Roy Keane. Yeah, he does. He's a soldier on the pitch. He's what the manager wants in his personality on the pitch. The other thing about Hotspur, he made a couple of mistakes last night, but you can guarantee he'll forget about that. He doesn't dwell on those sort of things. He'll come out in the press and say, "Look, I made this mistake. I hold my hand up."
That's all well and good if your aspirations are for to consolidate a mid-table team or maybe make Europe. I get that, and my criticism early in the season was that when Spurs beat City, and I was really critical of them because all the fans, you guys were saying we might, or people around were saying we might win the league, and in my view, that gets me really cross because I'm a purist, and we had this discussion the other night. I'm a purist, and I think we were talking about West Brom and money talks, and they've got to stay in the Premier League for more than anything else. And I was going, yeah, but at what price? It's love versus prostitution. I don't mind if you're just fighting for a European place, but if you ask, this is the English Premier League. I want to see a beautiful team every season, which Liverpool were, to be fair.
Okay. Before you finish that point, win
the league playing like they did against City in the early season, carrying Hotspur off on their shoulders. That defaces the beautiful game.
Can I ask you a question? Right, one second. Can I ask you this about the Liverpool team? We're saying that Liverpool all conquering for the last 2 to 3 years. What do you think Jordan Henderson brings to their team in terms of a beautiful football? Because I don't think he's a beautiful football player, but I think he does. No. I think he does for Liverpool exactly what's required of Liverpool. He does everything that's dirty in that sense. He picks up the ball. He gives it to the players that need to give the ball to. I don't see Henderson driving through, jinking 2 players and knocking it in the top corner. He doesn't do that. So Hotspur is a requirement for us because without him, our back four is even more exposed. When you have a back four that's exposed like how we can get exposed, there's no way you can win games. There's no team that I know that's won league after league after league that doesn't have that type of player in it. You can say that City don't, but they had Fernandinho. Plus they had
well enough. He doesn't intercept well.
So Fernandinho. Take Fernandinho as an example.
Henderson reminds me of a player, and that is Ray Wilkins. And they used to talk about him being the crab moving sideways all the time inside. But he was still a beautiful player, Ray Wilkins.
So you're saying that Henderson's a beautiful player?
Plays like that. He doesn't play as ugly as Hotspur. Hotspur is good in the tackle. He sits in front of the back four.
Fernandinho's a beautiful player. I'll ask you the question. Is Fernandinho a beautiful player? I'm asking you the question. Is Fernandinho a beautiful player? Because I've seen Fernandinho throw some right tackles in there, and he's not beautiful. He doesn't do beautiful things. He does exactly the job that you require him to do.
The same as Fabinho.
This is what I'm saying. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying about Hotspur, but you take him out of our team. We have not got anything defensively. And when you took Fernandinho out, before you got that position sorted, you lot were susceptible. Everybody said it. Without Fernandinho, how does City win? How does City keep goals out? So my point is, you can't have beautiful footballers in all positions.
I have a soft spot for Crystal Palace as well. And Hotspur is a lot like Luka Mijovic at, I can never pronounce his name, Palace. And if Hotspur had signed for Palace, I would have been open arms. Fantastic. He'll keep us in the league. He might get us to mid-table. He's ugly. But you know what? We need an ugly player at Palace to keep us in the Premier League every season, like Luka Mijovic and Hotspur. But there's a difference between Palace playing to survive, playing to get to mid-table, and Spurs and City aspiring to represent our country in Europe as the champions of our league. That's the bit that I think is different. And that's, I think, puts the difference between Ray Wilkins and Henson and Luka Mijovic and Hotspur, who I associate as the same. There is a distance apart between those 4 players.
Scott McTominay, Fred from Man United, beautiful players.
Yeah. No, Fred and McTominay are still a bit rough. They're still a bit rough.
That's my point.
You need a rough player in every team. Every great team has a rough player.
They're not league-winning players. I agree with you. They're not league-winning players, but Henson is. Ray Wilkins was. Fernandinho is. There's a difference.
N'Golo Kante.
N'Golo Kante. He is.
Makalei. He was another one. Makalei. So, and Højbjerg's no different to those
No
names we
different.
mentioned.
No different.
Could be if he wasn't so damn slow. And Thiago, who I'm critical of, or actually thinks one of the guys who's brought Liverpool down, Thiago could be if he wasn't so arrogant to assume he could stroll the Premier League, which he can't.
But then Thiago's pretty much won everything there is in football, and yet he's
Not
exactly the same.
Not in our league. Not in our league.
But he's won Champions Leagues. He's won German. He's won every in the game at the highest level. He's won what he has for Bayern Munich, etc. By being that dirty player, that player that doesn't care about getting stuck in, doesn't care about running for 90 minutes, does the dirty, does what everyone doesn't want to do, and he's effective. And
I'd like to see Højbjerg play some of the not-look passes that Thiago does with the outside of the boot.
Don't need him to. You've got Ndombele to do that.
I see him do that. I really will, but I'm not sure. Thiago does have it. He's a class act. I just think he needs to get fitter to be good enough to be a Premier League champion player. Let
me just get to these comments and then we can continue this. Zach seems to agree with us. We at United wish Fred would do the Højbjerg role. And Zach, I'm not saying that Zach's right, but I'm just going by Zach's comments. No frills, just do his job. Just do his job. That's what Højbjerg does. He doesn't need to do back flicks. He doesn't need to do, cutting through balls, although he can do that because I've seen him do that, because we have other players that he'll give the ball to do that. It's just the way we have to set your team up. If we had two Ndombeles playing the same role in the same team, we're open. We're susceptible to counter-attack. We're susceptible to a lot of these things. When we put Sissoko and Højbjerg together, that's too defensive. So it has to be the balance. The balance is what makes a good team. And that's what I'm saying about Fernandinho at City. He made that balance. Take him out, put someone else like Silva in there, David Silva alongside Gundogan, and you ask them, because I've seen Gundogan play that defensive midfielder role. I don't think he plays it that well because he's not that type of player. He wants to go forward, as he's proved with his goals. He wants to be in the box. Højbjerg doesn't really want to be in the box. He's happy and very good at what he does outside of the box, if that makes sense.
If I was at Southampton, if I was at Palace, if I was at Brighton, if I was at a mid-table, Wolves even, a mid-table team, I would welcome him with open arms. And for a mid-table team, he's a good player, as is Fred, as is McTominay. That's their level, all right? But there's a difference. If you're going to tell me you're going to be happy to just qualify for Europe or be mid-table for Spurs, I'd say, great, congratulations, lads. You've got yourself a great player. But if you aspire to be the champions of England, if you aspire to be the champions of England, he is no Henson, he's no Angelo, Fernandinho. That's the difference you have to have a champion. A Champions League
completely disagree. You look at the likes of Petit for Arsenal and Vieira. Petit was more defensive. Vieira's more box to box. Yet they were champions of, and I hate using them as an example, but they were an effective example. Roy Keane, Paul Scholes. You had the balance there. Roy Keane would do the dirty. Scholes give the ball. He does what he would need to do from a creative perspective. Man City, you've got Fernandinho. You've got to have a balance. You can't have.
Okay, let's list them. Roy Keane, Emmanuel Petit, Patrick Vieira, Fernandinho, Henson, Højbjerg. Come on.
What are you saying? I don't know what question you're asking me.
I think, Ian,
what question you asking me?
Any team in the Premier League, I think, generally, I'm not just saying it because he plays for Tottenham, I generally think any team would take Højbjerg and have him in their first 11 because of what he does and what he can provide the team from a defensive perspective in the middle of the park.
He doesn't. He's not enough for a top 4 team. He doesn't have the mobility. He doesn't have the craft. He doesn't have the passing.
He doesn't need the craft. He just needs to sit.
Hold on a minute. Mobility. Wait, what are you watching? What are you watching about mobility? He's one of our most mobile players. He gets around everywhere. That's the point about this type of player. He has to be mobile to get around a pitch because he fills in everywhere. So this mobility thing, that's the reason why Sissoko gets so many games for us, is because he can fill positions. He's not the most talented, but he's mobile. I don't really want to see mobility in someone like Sissoko in our team. I want to see mobility from someone like Højbjerg because he's a good player. He's a very good player.
He's been a world-class player in the 6 months before he's got to renegotiate his contract, whether it's at Newcastle or Spurs. He's one of the best in the world in that 6 months.
I'm going to get to Euros. I'm going to get to these comments because we're getting on to other topics, but this is good. I like this conversation. So, Mr. B, welcome, Mr. B. Jose, dead tactics be perfect for this game. Could be a surprise result. Well, I hope so. Solo, I believe City will win 2-0, but I would love it to be a draw. Solo, again, I think Solo is really saying Fred is world class. Oh, world class.
What?
World class.
He's got to be trolling, mate. He's got to be trolling. There's no way.
No. I really genuinely believe that Solo believes Fred is world class.
I give up.
I'm looking at that one more time. I'll read it one more time. Fred.
Keep smoking that stuff.
Fred is world class. Anyway, I'll move on to the next comment. Exactly. So Mr. Silver Fox has said it in exactly what I'm thinking. Behave yourself, Solo. Behave yourself.
Please.
Jose will get the 3 double-decker buses out. I believe he's going to get a double-decker bus out for this one. Fox, he's class people that are just hating. Okay, I think the smiling emojis may slightly give Solo's
maybe he's just trolling
away. Maybe he is. We're gonna have a comment here from Zach. I agree with the City supporter. He's right. Fred, McTominay, etc. ain't gonna win you titles, but they're in second place.
They're rough lads, you know. They're not bad for a mid-table team, and that's what I say. I watch Palace a lot live and on the TV. Same with City, and all those players you've listed, including Højbjerg and Fred, they'd be great at Palace. But Palace ain't getting top 14.
We're going to have to beg the difference on this.
Mr. Silver Fox. Mr. Silver Fox, again, we're not saying he's a Spurs supporter. I don't think Mr. Silver Fox is. I think he's a man. Is he a gooner? Oh, yeah. Even more so. So what Mr. Silver Fox as a gooner says here is Højbjerg is a top player, and this is coming from a gooner. Spurs would miss him if he wasn't playing.
Doesn't surprise me at all. Actually, I don't know what he's talking about. Actually,
oh dear!
You know what?
I think he's trolling us. He's trolling us here.
He is.
Højbjerg would be great at Arsenal. He needs to keep him in that mid-table. This moment in time, they need a Højbjerg at Arsenal. You're absolutely right. For 2 or 3 seasons, just to make sure they don't go down.
Right.
They do.
Before this goes too far, this guy's gonna make us lose our plot, and we're already on. You know what I mean? Not quite suicide watch. But you know what I mean? We definitely might have to be taking some Xanax or whatever it is, not to promote anything with regards to depression and everything. But right now, Blue Moon Ian is trying to push us to our limit. So I'm going to try and move this on to score predictions. Do you want to go first, Ian? Because I'm very interested to hear what your predictions for score is going to be.
Interesting. If City score early, I think they're going to seek some heavy retribution on the Spurs. If they score early, I think City could win by 3 or 4. I really do. There's a possibility here. If either Fernandinho is fit or Rodri and Diaz at the back, and they score early, it could be a big score. However, if they haven't got a defensive midfielder, if both of those two are injured, then it's a different game. And if City don't break down the bloody bus in the first half or in the first 40 minutes, Spurs could turn it. So if I've got to put my name to it, I think that long night will count to Spurs. I think City will win, and I think it's going to be 3-0.
3-0 City. Mike?
I just want to point out, I like how Ian mentioned that they needed a defensive midfielder, a bit like Højbjerg that we're talking about. But I
didn't want to say nothing. I didn't want to say nothing.
Over my head.
It didn't go over mine. I just didn't want to say nothing.
Yeah, I thought I would.
Højbjerg never catch Kane. If you put them, I bet in training, and Son and Kane are running against Højbjerg, I bet they score 10 every time. You know, that's what you need. What you've got to think about is if another team had Son and Kane running at them, would you want that Højbjerg to be the man to stop them?
I'm going to let that comment go over in my head.
I am, yeah. What's your score predictions?
I It really does depend for us we've played 120 minutes, and it is going to depend highly on who's available, who's fit. I think Kane will start. I think Son will. The back line is probably a little bit more what I'm concerned about. I think if we have Aurier, he partners Rodon with Toby and Davis, with Ndombele and Højbjerg in the front, then I think we might be all right defensively. I'm going to be brave. I'm going to go 2-2.
Okay. My prediction for score, if I look at how I think Spurs are going to approach the game, as I said, I think it's very much going to be a low block, counter-attacking type game. They're going to try and make it as difficult for City to break through as possible. I can therefore see possibly someone like Sissoko coming. Although I don't want him to, I can see Jose putting Sissoko in alongside Højbjerg and maybe putting Ndombele in front and maybe pushing Lamela out to the wide area so that he can then come in and also make another player in the middle to make 4. And because of that, I think it's going to be quite a tight game. My issue I've got is that City have found a way to be able to break down teams in this winning run that they've had. So they will find a way. I'm hoping that Jose can pull something out of the bag, and I always want to go for a Spurs win, but this one I'm going to go for a draw. The reason I'm saying that is because we're not really on form. City have got the form team, and they are, record breakers in terms of a winning run. And I just think it's a game now where we're going to have to be very, very defensive in terms of stopping them scoring. If we can catch them on the counter, we've got the likes of Kane, who did. Yeah, he played about 60 minutes, wasn't it, including the 30 extra time. So he shouldn't be too tired. I'm not using that as an excuse, but what I will say is that we're going to have to get something sorted out in that back line. We cannot afford for the errors that we had yesterday. If it's error strewn, it could be anything. But I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Let's see if we've got any more comments before we go. So Solo saying not Gareth Bales. Why do you always say Gareth Bales, Solo? It's Gareth Bale. He's not Bales. Stop doing that. He's trolling us again. Gareth Bales. He's saying he's got more than one of them. We haven't got more than one Gareth Bale. At this moment in time, we haven't even got one Gareth Bale. We've probably got half a Gareth Bale. Yeah. So let's not get onto that. Another comment here.
50 grand a week you're paying for him.
A lot of money. If Fred is world class, Xhaka is a Ballon d'Or contender. 100% agree with that. Adam Morris, tough game, but I think City 6-1. Oh, come on now. What's going on?
Yeah, come on, Adam. You're having a laugh. Where's the one coming from?
It's his lack of sleep. That's what Adam's problem there is. He needs some sleep.
Can I just say, there's a team very, very similar to Spurs. The manager plays exactly the same style, and the team has similar ability. And when City were going to play them, I was worried, because when Liverpool played them, they lost. I was worried about West Brom. They've got very similar managers, similar team. City managed to break West Brom down, and I think it's going to be similar to when they played West Brom. Allardyce, Mourinho, West Brom, Spurs. They play in the similar colours, don't they, as well?
I've had enough of this.
I think they're the West Brom.
I've had enough. I've had enough of you, Ian. I'm telling you, I've had enough of you already. I really have had enough. A few more comments here. Zacchaeus Forbes saying, "Love the show. Good to see a City fan on." Well, I'm not happy that City fans come on, but he's on anyway. Not many. We don't need to see any more. Adam Morris. Oh, very funny, Adam. The one goal is going to be an own goal. Ha ha ha. Again. Ha.
6-1 is he remembering the scoreline when Tottenham beat them early in the season?
Oh yeah, it's going through his head. The nightmares. Yeah, that's what it is. It's the nightmares that we gave to them. Yeah, the 6-1 we gave United. Don't forget that, did you? Hey, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Ian, I do hope we see you for the post-match review show. Oh, I'm hoping when we win 1-0 that you still come on.
Yeah, I will. I'll explain myself.
That'll be good.
Be like the Spanish Inquisition.
No, I promise you I will. I promise you. If City lose, I promise you I'll come on. And if Højbjerg scores the winner,
it's going to be a fun one.
Has Højbjerg ever scored?
Yes.
He scored the other night.
He scored the other night. He scored a screamer. It was a screamer.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go. And less of that anyway. We're moving on from that. Gentlemen, thank you very much. I'm just going to do the old outros again. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, share, comment. FTB Sports, the free shirt giveaway, football shirt of your choice. Once we get to 500 subscribers, we'll be doing a draw, and you'll all be entered in the draw. So let's get them numbers up. Again, the links are all in the description. I'd like to thank my guests tonight. Also, look out for further shows. There's going to be a preview show. Ian will be hosting that. That will be on Friday, I do believe it is. Yeah, and there'll be a number of other shows coming up as well. So please look out. Put that notification button on, and you'll get every content you would, even the fact that Hotspur is not very good. But we're moving on from that. I'm leaving that now. So, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.